with a 5:30 start. Martin O'Neill says Liam Kelly informed him of his decision to opt out of the Republic of Ireland squad by text message. The England-born Reading midfielder was one of those culled from the provisional squad named for Friday's friendly with Turkey in Antalya. O'Neill says that Kelly wants to keep his international options open. And Brooks Koepka has been ruled out of the Masters. The world number 9 has been sidelined since January with a tendon injury to his left wrist. Koepka says he'd beat 80% when action begins in Augusta in just over a fortnight's time, but that wouldn't be enough for him to compete. He placed 11th in last year's Masters.
Cheers, Rich.
Off the Ball on News Talk 106 to 108.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
On tonight's football show, we'll be over to Dan McDonnell in Turkey ahead of Ireland's friendly on Friday evening. We will be talking to Andy Mitten very shortly, editor of United We Stand, as Mourinho, post the Sevilla defeat, really, Kev, continues to either distract or melt down. And I'm actually unsure this time. Yeah, usually it is distraction. I think he may be melting down here.
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. We never really got the chance to speak after that Sevilla defeat, did we? Because, you know, I think Wednesday when I was back in, I was so disappointed after that game. And I think in general, you looked at United in that, and even Mourinho's quotes after that, Mourinho just seems to be on the defensive since that game. He's just constantly just come out. He obviously had the rant before the Brighton game, which was the Friday, I think, wasn't it?
That was the one about United's heritage, where he went back over recent years and effectively said, well, look, they haven't been very good for a number of years now, and so that's the football heritage that they might be somewhat deluded over.
Yes, exactly. Talking about Man City have got better or a more productive recent heritage. That was maybe the suggestion that is why they're behind City. And he referenced certain players that were around the club before Pep Guardiola was in there.
On paper, some of his points are perfectly valid.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like the right time.
No, I'm with you. Why would he see the need to actually do that though?
To defend himself, to make his
record's there for us all. Exactly. But his record's there for us all to see anyway. We don't need a manager that in front of us to tell us, because to tell us how good he is. Because the only thing that you think of Rafa, well, one of the first things you think when you think Rafa Benitez, yes, very good coach, and what he's done throughout his career, you would think yes, Champions League win. But immediately springs to mind his rant at Alex Ferguson all those years ago. That is the thing. Now I think of Mourinho, and maybe in a few years' time you'll think of this when he went off course, I suppose, just to try to get these points across and try to validate himself. And I don't think he needs to do that.
Well, at the weekend they beat Brighton by 2-0 in the FA Cup quarter-final, and Luke Shaw was substituted at half-time. And Mourinho came in afterwards in his post-match press conference and wasn't overly impressed with, I was going to say anybody. There were a few islands of class, but basically nobody.
It's my decision.
What was your reasons behind it then?
My reason behind them is that we work on the pitch a certain kind of movements where for me was really important the two fullbacks to be aggressive and to be always in front and to create space for Matic and Scott to play in front of the two central defenders, and I didn't have that with Luke and with Antonio Valencia, with both of them. I didn't change both because was too aggressive to do it, and then I have only one more change for 90 minutes, and I decided Luke because at least Antonio defensively was capable of some good positionings. I prefer to name the good ones. Matic was an island of personality and quality, but a few of other guys, I saw them scared to play. It's a relation to trust, is a relation to class. When the sun is shining, and the sun is shining in football is a period where everything goes well, you win matches, you score goals, everything goes in your direction. Every player is a good player. And every player wants to play, and every player wants the ball, and every player is confident to play, and every player looks amazing. When it's dark, not everybody has the confidence and the personality to play really.
That's what he was saying. He talked about Matic in glowing terms as the only bit of class and personality in the team, and explained there his decision, as you would have heard, to substitute Luke Shaw. There is mixed speculation on what exactly is going on behind the scenes. For instance, Daily Telegraph James Ducker says that senior figures at Manchester United are becoming increasingly perturbed by Mourinho's criticism of Shaw. Not only do they fear the treatment could be seen as vindictive, but they worry that the player's transfer value is being eroded. It's nice to see their concern for poor old Luke Shaw, the person here. And it's understood, says Ducker, that some senior members of the dressing room are considering addressing the situation with Mourinho. Mourinho was seen angrily shouting at Shaw during the first half, and as we know, later vented his unhappiness at the performance in interviews. He says here, Ducker, players' concerns are believed to be shared by some staff at United who feel the manager has overstepped the mark, and that his treatment of Shaw is now at the risk of appearing vindictive. It's like the default setting is to criticise Shaw, one source said. The Guardian then, Jamie Jackson, says that he won't be forced out of Old Trafford, Shaw, although he is unhappy. He's understood not to have made a final decision on his future. And then the Times' Paul Hurst here was saying that Shaw has decided his time at Old Trafford has come to an end. He says Shaw has been left perplexed by Mourinho's recent comments, and that the Portuguese has been suspicious of Shaw for some time. He says he reckons that he holds the left back as a perfect example of a player who had too much too soon in his career. Andy Mitten is the editor of United We Stand, and he's on the line. Evening, Andy.
Good evening.
So, not the first time we're talking about the Mourinho-Luke Shaw situation. What's your understanding of Luke Shaw's professionalism and the way that Jose Mourinho treats him day to day?
That Jose Mourinho wants him to have the mental toughness required of a top Manchester United player, and that he feels that by criticising him publicly, that could motivate him further, that he feels that he has the strength of personality to be able to withstand public criticism. But this is a cycle now which has happened 3 or 4 times, and there are lots of mitigating factors. It's not a black and white issue. I spoke to Luke Shaw in his first weeks at Manchester United. Well, I was scheduled to, except he was the last player to turn up for the team bus on a pre-season in Denver. And I saw the reaction that day. He'd been at the club a couple of weeks, and Darren Fletcher was asked to get off the bus and go and get him. And I thought, this is a teenager who's just joined Manchester United. He should be the first player on the bus, not the one holding the bus back. And it just seemed oblivious to him that he'd actually done anything wrong. And a year later, back in the States, I spoke to him in Seattle, and Shaw admitted that he'd been a bit overwhelmed, that he'd not taken United perhaps with the most professional attitude, and that he wanted to rectify that he'd been pre-season with Adnan Januzaj, he'd paid to go to Dubai with a private physio, and he was much more determined, and he was well aware of how important it was to play for the club now. And he started that season in 15-16 really, really well until an very unfortunate injury in Eindhoven. And then when I spoke to him at the start of this season, again in America, and to be fair, he'll come over, he'll talk to you. He was, the main thrust of his comments was, I wouldn't wish the injuries I've had on anybody. And I get that, that's his perspective. Now, Shaw was Ed Woodward's first major coup when he came in. So United have always wanted Luke Shaw to work out. He cost a lot of money. I think he was the most expensive ever transfer fee for a teenager. And he was very talented. He was the best player for Southampton, along with Morgan Schneiderlin in the David Moyes season. And that's why United went for Shaw, a Chelsea fan. And he came and he did all right, but there's always a feeling that he wasn't pushing himself as hard as his talent could allow. But ideally, he should be Manchester United left back, a fullback like Dennis Irwin and play for years, or Patrice Evra. And Manchester United looked at other fullbacks. Patrice Evra wanted to go back to Manchester United in January 17, and Mourinho was open to the idea of Evra going back, but the club were insistent on pushing on with Shaw, that he did have the talent, he deserved a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance. So there are different perspectives from either side, and it's all right saying the players think this, the players think that. There isn't one opinion among a group of 20 men. Some people think that the public criticism is the right way to go. There are not enough strong characters in the dressing room, and a lot of them have been lost in the post-Ferguson years. But there aren't enough leaders there, and it is the way forward. And there are others who think, certainly as I understand it, that it is a bit harsh. He is still a young lad. He's living away from London, where he grew up, and there are others who think he could be more professional. So there's a whole array of different opinions, and I spoke to people who know that position very, very well, who know Manchester United very well. And there's a lot of sadness surrounding it. There's a lot of frustration that he comes back and he plays a few games and then he gets dropped. I was at Sellers Park 2 weeks ago, and when Luke Shaw came on, I thought, is this shirt ill-fitting, or does it look like he's put a bit of weight on?
Yeah, that same thought struck us, I must confess.
He just did. So everyone's saying now, that's it, his time's gone. But they were saying the same thing in October, and he came back and he proved people wrong again. I don't think that it looks like he's got a long-term future at Manchester United. And I know that last year people close to him were amenable to the idea of him moving. Tottenham was one of the clubs who was happy to play for. I don't think his relationship with Mourinho was any near as strong as it could be, but I know other players who adore Mourinho. He's far more popular than Louis van Gaal was, even to this day, as he is with Manchester United fans. We did a poll yesterday among match-going fans. So these aren't the people online who are permanently unhappy and furious because Manchester United are not signing star players every single day. These are fans who are going week in, week out, and 85% of them think that Mourinho should be at the club next year. None of them for pretending that all's well, that it's great that Manchester City are running away with the league, that the result against Sevilla last week was anything but a disaster. But they still believe that he should be given more time, that he has made some improvements.
Yeah, Andy, you just mentioned something there that earlier on around the fact is that Mourinho is talking about him publicly to try to get a reaction. But this reaction, or Mourinho's criticism of Shaw, clearly hasn't worked. So surely management styles or management techniques is all about getting the best out of your players. You're talking about the maybe board still wanting to plough on with Luke Shaw, still desperately trying to make this signing work for the club. Clearly the relationship isn't working. Clearly that trust that Mourinho has got in Luke Shaw isn't working. If there is that maybe suggestion from the club above Mourinho's head that he was going to be that player they want to persist with, then why would he continue with this line of attack so publicly on Luke Shaw, but not just Luke Shaw as well, maybe one or two others along the line? Surely we've seen this from Mourinho before, so why would he continue in that theme?
Because he thinks that it works. Look, I don't know what's going on exactly inside Jose Mourinho's head, but it has worked, this tough love with other players. He was very harsh on Henrik Mkhitaryan at the start of last season. And I know it seems slightly ridiculous saying this now that he's moved to Arsenal, but he did come good. He finished last season really well after Mourinho had been tough on him and said, mentally, and it was the mental side, and also the physical side. You need to be better if you're going to play in the Premier League. And he's tried it with Shaw. And he has praised Shaw as well. He's not just hammering him all the time. This isn't a personal vendetta. And I do agree that it doesn't look edifying when I see Jose Mourinho being strongly critical of him. And it does seem like he's picking him out sometimes. But I can only think that there is a method to, I wouldn't say madness, but to his continual calling out of players.
We'll just jump in there for 1 second and maybe tease that out a second. So, for instance, the former director of Southampton's academy, Jason Dodd, was on 5 Live last night on Football Daily, and this was his take. He certainly is of the opinion, and it seems to be a similar opinion to Pochettino, that Shaw doesn't respond to the stick. He's far more of a carrot kind of a guy.
Knowing what Luke's like, he does pull your hair out a few times, and you have to try different things to try and get the best out of him. I got a feeling that Mourinho is at the end of it, and he's like, look, I've tried this, I've tried that, and I'm getting nothing out of him. do I go down this route then? And for me, knowing what Luke is about as a person, I don't think this is the best way. He's had it, he's up there, he came up with his parents, he's a young lad, 22, and he's more or less, this is the criticism that he's getting, and the manager's question, and does he really want to play? And I think, like, listening to the comments to the chaps and things, and it's bullying, I think, is a little bit harsh, but I got a feeling, not being in there, but I think they've tried everything. And they've not been able to get this through to young Newt to get him out on the pitch and perform. Because when they bought him for 27 million quid, I'm thinking this is an investment. They're going to double their money if further down the line they do get rid of him, because he's got that much ability. And the problem is we're just not seeing it at the moment.
What's he trained like, Jace? What's he trained like? What's he like?
He's one of them. He's one of them where you really got to keep on and you've got to push him. He needs to be challenged. With the 18s, it was too easy. So his positioning wasn't great because he was quick enough and the players weren't as good as him, so he got himself out of jail. When he got into the first team, he was quick. He never really got troubled because he was always quick enough to get out of it. The standard he's playing at the moment is world class. So the players are as quick. So he's getting punished because he's not really in the right positions defensively to impinge onto the wide players, and he's getting caught out, and it's one of those on the training ground. Me personally, constantly on him, constantly trying to challenge him.
How did he react to that, Jason? Then
I think he likes it. Someone like Luke, it's more of a cuddle. You know what it's like, mate, when you've got different players. Some of them, like I imagine you, mate, you could get a right rocket and you'd respond to that. But someone like Luke, you cuddle and then you give him a little dig, and that's the way you got to challenge him to get going.
So right at the end there, the touch of cuddle is probably significant. Like, certainly there's a fair degree of stick, to be fair, as well, and it does seem like Shaw is a bit of a problem child. It was very interesting. I don't know if you've seen it, but Shaw wrote the epilogue in Pochettino's book. Andy, I don't know if you saw that. And I mean, it does seem he needs his hand held a bit, to be fair to Mourinho. It seemed he struggled with dietary issues and that Pochettino would make him a vegetable smoothie in Pochettino's office every day. He used to call me his son, says Shaw in the epilogue to Pochettino's book just at Christmas there. That's how good our relationship was. I've had lots of ups and downs, but when I was with Pochettino, it was only ever up, up, up. He made me feel that I was the best. He'd show me clips of my game and say, you could do this better, but not in a horrible way. So he says, not I could have done better, but I should have done better, because he knows I can be better. And he says, I think with Southampton he achieved the impossible. We were one of the best football teams in the league. I hope that I can play for him again one day. Like, some of Mourinho's comments though have been scalding, you know. I mean, the guy broke his leg horrifically and then came back, and there was the Watford game where he completely singled Shaw out quite strongly in 2016 and said he was 25 metres away from the player instead of 5. It was all his fault. I'm not sure that day how much at fault Shaw was, to be honest, looking at that incident. The one where I thought it had just reached like nastiness levels beyond all kind of logic was April 2017, the Everton game, the draw, when Mourinho said that the reason Shaw had played well in one half is that he was beside him. He said he had a good performance, but it was with his body and my brain. I mean, like, the ego of Mourinho here. It was with his body and my brain. He was in front of me. I was making every decision for him. And, like, sure, maybe he was talking him through, but, you know, we're saying that Mourinho is a master motivator and everything. Like, has he not read Shaw? Has it not struck him regarding Shaw what struck Dodd, what has struck Pochettino, and that on the one day where Shaw seems to have a good half of football, Mourinho has to come out publicly and say it was my brain that did it for him? It seems like he's completely mismanaged the situation, and on this occasion, for whatever reason, because he does seem to have been a good man manager in the past, seems to have just completely got Shaw wrong.
I know people who've worked with Shaw. They talk about his talent. One of them compared him to Rooney in so much as he needs to be playing. He's got that similar build where he needs to be getting minutes all of the time. He needs to be motivated. I think at times there's been accusations that he's been lazy. His family certainly push him. You see him at all the European away games, and that's quite sad because they go to places like Seville. They wanted to see the sun, and then they get the message a few hours before the game that he's not playing. Or maybe Mourinho's just got it wrong. He's got it wrong before with players. You know, he let Lukaku go from Chelsea, Kevin De Bruyne, Salah. On balance, he tends to get things right. But he does make mistakes as well. And Manchester United fans are not blind in their loyalty to Jose Mourinho. They're not pretending that the football is fantastic this season, that Manchester City running away with the league is a good thing. But he is not the only issue, and United fans have been far more critical of their players than the manager is. Clearly, when a manager makes comments publicly, far more people are going to take notice of it. But, United fans are asking about why is Pogba being so ineffective? Why has Alexis Sanchez had one good game against 4th Division Yeovil Town? There are other questions apart from Luke Shaw, and at this moment, it doesn't look like Luke Shaw has got a future at United. The Tottenham thing, I heard last year that he was pushing to go back to Tottenham. We know that Manchester United tried to sign Eric Dier from Tottenham last year. You speculate and think that they'd try and do some business together last year, maybe swap Harry Kane and Eric Dier for Luke Shaw, as if. But there's always issues with Mourinho. But it was the same at every club that he's been at. I watched him closely in Madrid. He fell out with several members of the Real Madrid first team because he felt it was what he was doing right. Was it the right thing? Depends on his version of events, you see. You speak to hardcore Madrid fans, they were singing Jose Mourinho's name 2 years after he went. They thought that he was doing things right. You speak to Iker Casillas, he has a very, very different view on Mourinho's methods. They've tended to be successful, but he's clearly a man under pressure. He's getting attacked every day. I do also think that his English still isn't perfect. There are some things that get twisted slightly against him, and he's very intelligent in the way that he uses the media. But when I interviewed him last year, there were a couple of things where I needed to go back for clarification, and I thought that could easily be spun against you. When you're in the pressure of giving a post-match interview when emotions are high, I don't think he always benefits from that set of circumstances. And when the other day he was doing the 12-minute rant, if you like, I can see where he's coming from, but he's also dealing with the media who some of them have really got it in for him as well. And he can get eaten up by that a little bit.
Sorry, Andy, just on something that you said there, just around the fact is that he's got the utter belief in what he's doing is right, maybe when he was at Real Madrid in relation to that. But Joe touched on something there about man management and how he goes about things. Most managers that I would have known when you're signing players, or when even players that you may be inheriting, you will do some sort of background check on them, speak to past managers, speak to past coaches, and speak to people that have worked with those players before. Is that Mourinho's style, or is it just about what I do? I'll get the best out of those players, and almost dismissing what has gone before?
I spoke to players from 5 or 6 different countries who've played under him, and 80% of them adore him. I'll give you some examples. Julio Cesar, the goalkeeper, just said he turned my career around. Benny McCarthy, who was a difficult player. Managers really struggle with Benny. And I've known Benny for 15, 20 years. And he just said he was the man. I would fight for him. So he does command absolute loyalty from some of his players. But if you're the one who's being singled out, if you're the one whose face doesn't fit, then you're going to have a slightly different view of it. And clearly there's an issue with Luke Shaw.
It is that suggestion. It's about what I'm doing with my squad of players now, regardless of what's happened in the past. I don't care about that then.
Yeah, he wants to show that he is the boss. And some of the players now earn that much money. They've got family members on the payroll, whether it's by an agency, because the agents don't want to lose their meal ticket. No one's giving them bad news. Everyone's telling them everything that they want to hear. Mourinho sees himself as someone who has to deliver some truth, however unpalatable it may seem at the moment. But when Manchester United are playing badly, and they've had some stinking games this year, some very good ones as well, but the defeat at Newcastle, at Tottenham, the 2 Sevilla games, someone has got to read the riot act, and that's what Mourinho thinks that he's doing, because if he doesn't get improvements from them, he's going to be losing his job. As I understand it, he's very happy at United. He was delighted to sign that contract. Talk about him only living in a hotel is not an issue for him. He's quite comfortable with his living and working arrangements. He thinks that he's making improvements and will continue to make improvements. Will he close that huge gap on Manchester City? Doesn't look like it. I had dinner a few days ago with someone who's very close to Guardiola. I was saying, is he happy in Manchester? Is his wife happy? Is his family happy? And unfortunately for Manchester United fans, every answer I got back was yes, very. So it looks like Guardiola's going to be around and doing well. But I watched Guardiola very closely when he was at Barcelona, and I could see the intensity building up with him, the pressure building up with him, his relationship with big name players. It started to break down a little bit until he called it a day. And you can see that Mourinho and Guardiola are hugely successful, but the fuse can be a short one with some players, and only Mourinho knows what he has got in mind for the future of Luke Shaw, and at the moment doesn't look positive. But had we had this chat 6 weeks ago, it would have looked completely different, because he played himself back into being a regular in the team. Yeah, it's interesting how it can all blow up out of nowhere. So we'll talk to you another time, Andy, as things continue to develop this season. Thanks a million. Thank you. Cheers, Mitten there, editor of United We Stand. Back in a second.
Off the Ball on News Talk. The Pat Kenny Show.
Oh, if I had my way, there would be no referenda in the United Kingdom.
But Edwina, hang on a second. It's referendums. Referendum is a gerund from the Latin, and the plural is referendum.
And I did Latin O level, and I bet you didn't. So
I did A-level Latin, Edwina, as it happens.
The Pat Kenny Show
with MasterCard.
Back tomorrow at 9 a.m. on News Talk.
The Rolling Stones. No Filter, sponsored by Jeep. Croke Park, May 17th. Tickets from 7:45 go on sale this Friday at 9 a.m. Don't miss the Rolling Stones in Ireland. Produced by Concert West in association with Aiken Promotions.
When that niggling pain builds into something that makes it difficult to even think straight, try new Salpa Extra. With its dual-action formula of paracetamol and caffeine, it treats pain fast. Because it's soluble, Salpa Extra gets to work 2 times faster than standard paracetamol tablets, based on absorption data. For pain, think new Salpa Extra. Acts fast, so you can get back to life. Ask your pharmacist for advice. Salpa Extra soluble tablets for the treatment of mild to moderate pain. Always read the leaflet.
The following ad for appliances delivered will be attempted using no bad Easter puns. The Easter sale is now on at appliancesdelivered.ie with exceptional offers like up to 25% off washing machines and dishwashers, up to 35% off refrigeration and small appliances, and an exciting up to 50% off cooking appliances with next day delivery nationwide. So if you're looking for cracking deals, then check out the excellent the Easter sale now on at appliancesdelivered.ie. Why pay more?
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Now let's cross over to the southwestern coast of Turkey. Dan McDonnell is standing by in Antalya, where tomorrow it's going to be 21 degrees. If they squint from the beach, they can see Cyprus in the distance. Hello, Dan, intrepid reporter, come in.
Hi guys, how are things?
Yes, not as nice as I suspect they may be for you. Is that a tan I see?
He's doing well.
It's just blushing, Joe. It's just blushing and embarrassment. No, it actually wasn't a great day here today, weather-wise. But the worst day of the week by all accounts. So I think.
Oh, I'm glad.
The conditions pick up as Friday approaches.
Oh, that's good to hear, Dan. That is of huge importance to us.
I knew it'd be important to you, Joe, in particular.
What kind of place is Antalya, Turkey? It's somewhere I suspect I may never make.
Yeah, although the Turkish Open golf is on nearby here, so you never know, Joe, at some stage. But it is sort of it is a touristy area. I mean, in all seriousness, our flight here last night was full of people with their golf clubs and stuff like that, sort of tourists from the UK actually coming here, and it is one of these places where the trip in from the airport to our hotel was a motorway which has shopping centres and districts and everything along one side. So it's not maybe the authentic Turkey experience. It's more of a touristy resort type area. But it's quite pleasant. It's a bit off season actually, but it's still in Ireland it's peak season with this weather. But for the locals, it's full pair of jeans every day and stuff like that. So it's not quite sweltering temperatures.
Yeah, that lack of culture exactly up your street, Kev. That's just music to your ears there.
Yeah, well, I like to nice and relaxed. Take my golf clubs away, George. It's right up your street. You know that as well. You know what, Dad? Is there any indication? You mean that you're painting a great picture? I have to say that. But is there indication that this is a low-key training camp, or is it, as Martin O'Neill indicated, is the serious business is now ahead of us?
Yeah, it's strange because, in terms of low key, I suppose in terms of any local interest, they had their first training session today, Kev. There was a few camera crews there locally, I think one or two, and actually where the team are training, it's like the Turkish FA have a base in Istanbul and they have one down here, which is almost like a St George's Park effort in terms of it's all sort of self-contained within a complex and so on. So I think from the players' perspective, it's out of the public glare. There's 24 players here. Colin Doyle joins up tonight. It'll be 25, and I think there's competition within the camp. But in terms of the build-up to the game or anything like that, I can't imagine there's going to be a huge crowd at the match on Friday. We'll find out a bit more over the next few days. But Turkey haven't qualified for the World Cup either, so it's not as if they're in sort of World Cup fever mode, and this could be a good opportunity for players to bet into the camp in a slightly low pressure environment. Shane Long is the oldest player on the pitch today, which is a bit weird probably for you or anyone who always remembers Shane Long as like the young player coming up, sort of a player with potential, and he's the only player on the pitch today over the age of 30. So even for the other players coming in, they're coming in with lads maybe they've played with at underage level and so on.
Martin O'Neill spoke to the press today. The headlines are certainly about Liam Kelly, 22 years old, Reading player, has scored 6 goals this season. The gist of what we're seeing is that Martin has tried to contact Liam Kelly to not much avail.
Yeah, he was named in the squad this time around, Joe. He was named in 2 squads last year, the Wales game and the sort of the summer camp. That time now, there was a hamstring injury on one occasion, and then in the summer he wasn't available anyway because Reading got to the playoff final. I actually spoke to him around that time after a championship game, and he was quite happy he'd been called up for the first time. Was happy, was hoping he would get the call again, that type of thing. I know obviously Stephen Reid would have been on the coaching staff at Reading at that point and would have spoken very highly of him. Naturally, Stephen Reid isn't there anymore. You sort of wonder, do these little things make a difference in any strange way? But yeah, he was named in the squad this time around, was caught without much. Actually, I got a couple of questions on Twitter from people saying, what happened with Liam Kelly? But just to explain to people how it happened today, in the first answer, Martin O'Neill said, you might want to ask about Liam Kelly. I'm telling you what happened. He was getting his version of the story out there first, and it is, as he said, phone calls unreturned, a text message back. Pretty happy. I'm pretty sure, that he wasn't necessarily happy even with that line of contact either. It doesn't seem like it's been communicated well, regardless of your view of the decision or how it's come about.
Yeah. So he has grandparents in Mayo and Leitrim. It certainly feels like a bit of a flight risk just now. It's
just a bolt from the blue, though, isn't it? That's the one thing with it, because there was no suggestion with Liam. He had a call up. You mentioned there, Dan, last year against Wales. He was obviously called up for the summer games as well. Had to pull out of those two, but there was no suggestion whatsoever that he was going to be going elsewhere.
Has he been ensconced in the underage setup down the years?
Well, no. The thing with Liam Kelly is that he played at under 19 level for Ireland, underage level. And then around the time when he was coming into the peak of his under-21 career in terms of his age, he actually was not on the radar at all at Reading, ended up down at Bath City, I think, on loan. And when he actually burst back into the Reading team last season, I think he was pretty much overage for the under-21 side. So it had passed him by a small bit. And I don't know, did he ever take the hump in any way that he wasn't included at under-21 level when maybe his stock was low? And that's just me speculating, no basis for saying that. And as I said, and as Kev said there, even he seemed happy enough with the call last year. He'd spoken about it, and Martin O'Neill said today that he'd spoken to his agent, to Liam Kelly's agent last year, and everything seemed fine. So the only inkling they got that things had changed was when he didn't return a couple of calls, and that's what led them to believe that there was something afoot, and I guess so it's proved.
Is the suggestion, Dan, that he does now, given his form this season, fancy that England call-up then? Is that what the suggestion is?
Yeah, I mean, the direct quote from Martin O'Neill today was about England. He seems to think, I don't have it quite in front of me, but it was along the lines of, he thinks that England might be possible, and if it does, then good luck to him.
Sorry to interrupt, I have it here. So O'Neill said, I think he wants to keep his options open at the minute. Obviously, he's born in England, wants to keep those options open, and that's fine. I did actually leave a message or two, and he got back to me by text, and then he said, despite the fact that I knew where he was born, I thought it was okay. I spoke to his agent some quite considerable time ago, and I think that was always going to be okay, I felt. But I've always said here, it's the player's choice, is exactly what it is. And if he wants to think that England might come in, that's entirely his decision. Just a hint of a suggestion that it might be slightly delusional to think that England might come in there from O'Neill. I could be over-reading into that. What was his demeanour when he was bringing this up with you guys?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he was angry. I think he was more bemused, really, with the whole thing, I guess.
Right. As in there's no chance England are coming in?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's strange. I think what we are seeing now is the climate has changed in the sense that I don't know, maybe some players believe that the bar that's been set to play for England isn't as high as it once was, in the sense that they're operating off a reduced pool of players in the Premier League, and you're seeing guys get into squads that I guess some players who ultimately want to play for England see these guys get in and go, well, maybe I should never get up. It's like the old Ricky Lambert theory, it may well be that Liam Kelly at 22 doesn't believe he's going to get the option, but he might think at 25, 26 that is something that could become viable if he continues his progress of the last two seasons, which it must be said has been very good. He's had a decent year this year for a team that's struggling. He was excellent last year, but it's there's still a level of disappointment when it happens in this way. And he's spoken before about wanting to play for Ireland. Now doesn't want to. What happens if England don't call? Does he come back in the future? I'm not sure the public are going to be mad about that. Just the response today, in some ways, O'Neill is throwing him out there, and he's I wouldn't say he's throwing him under the bus, but he's certainly put it in such a way that there's an unsympathetic view towards Kelly amongst Irish fans that I think would be hard to forget if for some reason in 2 years' time he wants to come back and play for Ireland for some reason.
Well, that's it, Kev. I mean, that phrase, keeping options open. There are two sides there. There is Kelly's side, he's keeping his options open, and then there is official Ireland's side, which is, well, how long do we let you to keep your options open? Well, exactly.
Martin O'Neill faced a little bit of criticism over his handling of the Jack Grealish situation. I was with him totally 100%, and I'm with him here totally 100%. He's had the conversation, albeit a text message that he received back. As far as I'm concerned now, he's out of my thoughts. That's the way it has to be. Let him go now. I don't get the big furore that will come around this now. That'll be, look, we've got an underage lad that's leaving the setup, or not prepared to be part of the setup. That's it now. As far as I'm concerned, it's done. He now has to initiate a conversation with Martin O'Neill if he wants to have a different sort of mindset. That's the way that I would think.
Yeah, and if he does initiate the conversation with O'Neill in a year?
Well, I suppose you're in a different sort of situation. We'll see how we are player-wise down the line. But there is indication now he doesn't want to play for Ireland. And personally, you know how I feel with that. Personally, if he doesn't feel he's always Irish and doesn't want to play for us, I would think he shouldn't be playing for us in future. But I understand that there'll be a different sort of mindset when you're struggling for players.
It's true, Dan. Jaap Stam has sung this guy's praises. He scored goals for Reading. He's the type of player we're not blessed with in droves. He's compared him to Iniesta at one point.
Yeah, passing and technique, world class, he said.
Yeah. So, I appreciate where Kev's coming from. I think we all do. But in 12 or 24 months, if it dawns on Liam Kelly that England call-up might not come and Ireland are admittedly second choice, but a choice, then I don't know how you decide whether or not you take these guys in.
Yeah, it is a tough one, and in some ways it comes down, I think, to how the individual handles it. I guess with Scott Hogan we had an element of this, that he kept his options open, but he also...
Yeah, but that's because his career didn't necessarily go the way that many around him suggested it would have gone. That is why he ended up coming back to us further down the line, and it still does sit uneasy with me at certain quarters. Definitely does.
Yeah, I guess Hogan came in, Kevin. He tried to explain it. There will always be people that will be sceptical, but the other players seem to have embraced him anyway, and maybe he's dealt with it in such a way that he's come in and made the right noises, and he's here this week and so on. and you would hope that he can move forward positively. I mean, I think the fact that O'Neill went into the communication today would suggest that there's an unhappiness with how this has been handled. And if someone, rings you up and says, listen, I've always wanted to do this, or whatever it might be, it probably sits that bit easier than it being handled in a slightly different way. It's a tricky one because he is a good player. We do have quite a few players in the central midfield area, must be said, going forward. He has got some very good tactical skills, and he's a bit different. But I'm not sure if he's going to generate the same hype in a couple of years' time that other players might have. Who knows? We don't really know. He's still in that second senior season stage, and it's a bit early to judge. And in some ways, do you say, well, at least he has done this now, rather than when there's a real hype around him and he is following his heart early, or have the FA even been onto him? I'd find that hard to believe, but then you wouldn't know with the as we mentioned, the English options aren't that deep, and maybe they are just scouting wherever they can and making calls just to let people know you're in our thoughts, and that's what instigates it.
Other just quick headline things to hit on, because time is starting to come against us. So Declan Rice was in town obviously over the weekend to pick up an award for his exploits, and he's thrilled to be in the squad. He said he's committed to Ireland. There was no decision to be made, so a far more straightforward situation than Kelly. And then O'Neill today talking about the pressure on Sean Maguire with his 5 goals in 4 games, still only 23. Let's give him time, said O'Neill. And then I guess the squad this week, we're seeing fresh faces. All of this is swirling around. That's all kind of good stuff, really.
Yeah, it's funny though. O'Neill is still reluctant to say that Rice is 100% in. He's almost got a sort of I think from his perspective, maybe he's reluctant just to be seen to be saying something just in case. But I mean, I spoke to Rice along with a number of other press lads the other day, and I was pretty impressed with how he came across. I think it was pretty adamant in terms of where he stood, and it would be a hell of an about turn now that would be beyond. I just don't think that's going to happen at all. And he was there today. It was interesting. We were allowed into training today for a longer stint than we normally would be. We were basically invited down to watch a sort of a 12v11 training match that they had, which is something that hasn't happened in the O'Neill era pretty much at all, really. And I don't know, is this part of it's a new camp, it's a bit more relaxed. Come in and watch the training. We got to watch the team. There was a mixed up side. It was a pretty lively enough training match. We had Roy Keane then doing a shooting drill in front of us with the players, and the access was good. You could see there was a general mood of players trying to make an impression. There's a lot of new faces, and that just brings a natural energy. Not just, you mentioned Maguire, okay, he was in the squad before, but even other lads, the likes of Darragh Lenihan and Derek Williams and other people like that. That this is one of the biggest weeks of their lives, effectively, and you can see that they were really putting it into that match today. It's only small details. And another thing as well, even someone like Cyrus Christie was put on the left side in training today, which you do wonder longer term with Coleman being back, which is obviously another angle. Seamus Coleman is here. I wonder long term, will Cyrus be shunted over to the other side to find some role for him in the future?
Yeah, very interesting. Anyone catch your eye in that extended viewing you had of training?
Well, I suppose we're looking to see where Declan Rice was as well, and he was actually played in midfield, which is quite interesting. And even listening to the comments afterwards from Martin O'Neill, I think if you were to say to me now, Declan Rice plays on Friday, where will it be? I think it possibly might be as a defensive midfielder, where he plays for the Irish under-21 side, but it's not where he plays for West Ham. He's been playing in a back three there, but it's certainly early days yet, but I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up there. That's certainly where he was in the training match anyway.
Dan, you just mentioned there playing in the back three for Declan Rice. Is there any suggestion that Martin O'Neill could change the system, perhaps go with the back three? Was there any indications in that practice game today?
Not quite today. He actually referenced it that he actually had tried it against Mexico briefly last year. It didn't really work, and he keeps mentioning it in discussion without ever really fully committing to it. Is it possible? He has a lot of personnel there who could operate that way. I mean, Darragh Lenihan is someone who would have played in that for his club as well too, and the likes of Enda Stevens is playing wing back for Sheffield United. Matt Doherty is playing wing back for Wolves. If there's ever a time to try it, I guess this would be one such time. But I'm not 100% convinced that might be the case. He still does have Shane Duffy. Okay, Duffy. I mean, there are players who've done it for their clubs actually, but I didn't get that 100% vibe from him, but it's not to say he won't flip things around, and this match could all be a ruse to fool us into thinking something completely different. But I'm not 100% sure he would do it from the outset, but he does have the personnel for it, to be fair.
Dan, one last quick point. It's interesting you got to see O'Neill in action at training, given that so much of the speculation over the last number of years is that he doesn't do very much at training, him personally. Was he interjecting throughout the game, often points like Trapattoni manhandling Kevin Kilban and showing him how to play on the wing? Or was
I need it.
Or was O'Neill just letting it flow?
No, he was more standoffish today, I guess. The game was flowing. And then afterwards, Roy Keane split with one half of the players, and then there was, I think, Guppy, other coaching staff split with the others. So he was more in the free role as opposed to getting sort of stuck into things. We weren't in for the full session, but certainly in the game session, it was very much a game, half-time, a game, no interruptions really, and then a bit of sort of separate work afterwards.
Okay, I guess he's got enough new faces to try and get a feel for. Dan, enjoy yourself, and we'll check in with you across the week. Thank you.
Cheers, lads. Take care.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the BoyleSports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store.
Get active at Outdoor Revolution, Ireland's biggest sports, adventure, health and wellness event. Join leading sports stars and experts Sean Kelly, Stuart Lancaster, David Gillick, Niamh Briggs, Stephen Hunt, Ross Purcell and many more. March 24th and 25th at the RDS Dublin. Enjoy free classes, workshops, cooking demos and expert discussion. 10% of Outdoor Revolution ticket sales go to Pieta House. Book yours now at outdoorrevolution.ie.
Maybe you're just worn out. Work and the grind of daily life is getting to you. But maybe there's a different reason. If you're a man over 50 experiencing symptoms such as tiredness, loss of libido, and feeling down, you may be one of 8% of men who has testosterone deficiency. The good news is it can be treated. Talk to your doctor and find out more at whatistd.ie, a disease awareness campaign by Business Healthcare.
As the dog of the house, I know exactly what my family are thinking. Right now, they're convinced I am upset they're heading off on holidays. Me? Upset? Yeah, right. They have AA travel insurance, so I won't have to worry about them while I'm living it up with the neighbour's French poodle, Fifi. Ooh la la.
Go to the AA.ie and get annual travel insurance from only $24.99. And you're even covered before you go. Who's got clever travel insurance? Online value price covers one adult under 50 to Europe. AA Ireland Limited, trading as AA Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. AA Insurance is tied to interpartner assistance for the purpose of selling travel insurance.
There are lots of ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. At Screwfix, we like to keep the celebrations going with 8 days of big money off deals. So from the 13th to the 20th, you can get up to 50% off a great range of products, including power tools, hand tools, and accessories. Just visit screwfix.ie. Hurry, sale ends today.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
We got Salah. Aha, money, do. And Bobby Firmino. But we sold Coutinho.
You love it, don't you?
But we've got Salah. Aha, money, do. And Bobby Firmino. And we sold Coutinho.
Mo Salah's the man, Joe. You've been watching him all season. We've made the comparison a few times, haven't we? This boy's, only Messi could score these goals, and every single time you shoot me down, Kev, no, don't say it. And
I know you're right, though.
I know.
His body shape, the things he's doing. Jurgen Klopp, I don't think Salah wants to be compared with Lionel Messi. Messi's been doing what he's been doing for what feels like 20 years, said Klopp. The last player I know who had the same influence on a team performance was Maradona. But Mo is in a fantastic way, that's for sure. As it always is in life, if you have the skills, you have to show them constantly and consistently, and he is very good. So that's Klopp. Salah is now the leading goal scorer across all of Europe's top 5 leagues. He's overtaken Messi. He has overtaken Harry Kane. In the league, he is up to... I jotted it down. 28 in the league. Yeah, Kane is on 24.
Yeah, so he'll win the Golden Boot in the Premier League 1 team. What a scene. You just look at it where it's come from, though, Joe. He's a 1-in-2 man over 2 seasons at Roma. 15 goals last season, 14 the one prior to that. 19 in all, 15 in all in those 2 seasons. But prior to that, even at Fiorentina, and I know he went into the back end of the season, I think he scored 6 goals, none at Chelsea, and then his Basel return wasn't the greatest. So yes, there's probably an element of Jurgen Klopp and how he's got him playing within that front three. I think you have to look at, and some I've spoken about to you maybe in the last few weeks, is certainly Firmino. I think Firmino, I mean, I'd heard it suggested over the last few days that he is in his position playing within that structure at Liverpool. He is as good, if not better, than anyone in Europe being able to play that type of in the number 9 position, because he's not necessarily playing as a number 9. He's not necessarily just directly looking to run in behind, create space. He's the one that comes a little short at times, and that is where you get Mane, who is back in form, and particularly Salah, that's getting onto the end of passes, just coming in off the right hand side, and it's been great to watch. And you look at all these stats around him. It's just it is amazing, considering as well that he only made 6 starts for Chelsea. So he signs in 2014. He's sold he's let go on loan initially in 2015. Made 6 starts during the 2013-14 season. So he doesn't have an impact in the Premier League. So there's a suggestion at the start of the season that this guy,
I didn't remember him.
Well, he didn't play. He didn't really play.
But I don't even remember him joining Chelsea. I don't remember any sense that this guy could be good. I don't remember anything.
I remember he did okay with Basel in a few of the European games. That's what led to I think there was Liverpool and Chelsea that were in for him at that time, and there is a transfer committee at Liverpool as well that try to push these signings through. So they, by all accounts, have monitored him. Didn't get him at the time when Chelsea got him. They wanted to sign him then, and they were apparently the people that actually influenced Jurgen Klopp to sign him. That was how it went about this deal. So
I hope he's thanked them.
Well, yeah, I know. I think you're right.
Let's do a piece on this false number 9 position as well, because it really seems to work. When it works well, it's pretty phenomenal. When you have the right players either side of the false number 9.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need. You need that movement in behind, don't you?
So we're pretty much done for this evening. Tom Dunn is on the way next. OTB AM live tomorrow, 7:45. Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. The lads, Owen and Gerald, will be talking about to Charlie Morgan of the Telegraph about the state of English rugby after their 3rd defeat in a row, and also Neptune chairman Paul Barrett. And the sports capital programme is up for discussion. It's raised more than a few eyebrows, I'm sure you've seen over the last few days. Tomorrow night we'll have Wednesday night rugby. We will be talking Limerick hurling, and it looks like, do we have him? Maybe, Kev. It's looking like we've Tony Cascarino and his memories of the 99 playoff at the Ataturk Stadium, which ended in a mass brawl. So we'll talk about that. You were there. So
one night in Bursa.
Yeah. That is us done. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.